Welcome to a brand new retrospective. It's been a while. How have you guys been? I hope you've been doing excellent. Welcome to this utter gloriousness where I dissect BoJack Horseman episodes for an unnecessarily long amount of time, and I overanalyze everything because why the heck not? Of course, I've already made 3 prior retrospectives to this, so if you haven't watched them, I suggest you do, because they're pretty good as well. Now, enough of my yapping, I don't need to say too much, you already know what this is, so let's get into this retrospective of BoJack Horseman, Season 4. Season 4 of BoJack Horseman. Welcome to my show. You will analyze this character. We can learn some more. So stick around. Let's enjoy the show. The episode opens 3 months after the events of Season 3. BoJack is missing and out of contact. Diane leaves repeated voicemail messages that go unanswered. The public life moves on. Mr. Peanut Butter launches a recall campaign against Governor Woodchuck Goodchuck Berkowitz. What an amazing name. He fails to gather enough signatures to appear on the ballot, but Diane, trying to motivate him and lift his spirits, she inadvertently and accidentally gives him the idea to challenge the mayor to a ski ride. Yeah, that's going to be a very sensible way to figure who should run the bloody city, or town, or country, whatever he's doing. So now Mr. Peanut Butter actually has it in his head that he's going to challenge this mayor to a bloody ski race in order to take away his throne and finally have the leadership that he's been seeking. Katrina, who's his ex and someone who's acting as his campaign manager, engineers a last-minute constitutional amendment so a ski race can actually decide governorship. Mr. Peanut Butter, ludicrously optimistic as usual, begins training at a luxury ski academy. Also in the episode, Todd receives a drone from Emily. Remember Emily? Yeah, the person who he gave part of his millions to, but then he ended up spending all the millions giving it to a waitress. By the way, that waitress is really down to earth because even though she's not an 8 millionaire, she's still working as a waitress, keeping it down for her co-workers. But anyways, during a brief conversation, Todd's like, oh my god, I really wish I had that drone, bruv. We also get a bit of an insight into what's going on with them, the sort of awkward tension. Todd not really knowing what he necessarily identifies himself with, not really wanting to have any label. But Emily's sick and tired of waiting around for him. She wants herself a man, and Todd unfortunately is never gonna be in the place to want to be that man for her, or at least that seems to be the issue right now. And if you really look at the structure of this episode, it deliberately excludes BoJack Horseman. And honestly speaking, the absence sort of reframes the show from a BoJack Horseman self-destructive story to an ensemble portrait of consequences. Starting with Mr. Peanut Butter, his campaign signals a thematic shift. The episode sort of examines the world that BoJack Horseman has left behind, and how characters seem to evolve and exist independent of him. Also, flashbacks to 1992 in the beginning of the episode. It shows Mr. Peanut Butter accidentally landing an early TV role. He wandered onto a set and charmed his way to the audience's heart, establishing his long habit of winning by affability rather than skill. Let's quickly talk about the day of the ski race. Oh my god, it's about to happen. Let's figure out who wins. Well, Mr. Peanut Butter rightfully won possession of mayor. Well, not quite. You see, Woodchuck easily outpaces Mr. Peanut Butter. Todd loses control of his drone. Yes, he happens to be on his drone. He ends up flying wildly all over the place until, by some random crazy luck, he ends up crossing the finish line to this race. Todd is declared governor. But don't worry, that doesn't last too long. He immediately resigns, prompting legal confusion and a new special election. Mr. Peanut Butter remains in the race. The episode closes with Diane trying to reach out to BoJack one final time out of the many times she's already attempted to call him, only to reach his voicemail because he ain't picking up. But guess what? BoJack's voicemail is full, and Diane is left seemingly unable to release the burdens and stress of the day onto anybody, onto BoJack, onto someone who is one of the few people that actually understands her. I absolutely love the satire in this episode. It was great. The ski race amendment is pure satirical exaggeration, celebrity politics distilled to a spectacle. Mr. Peanut Butter's candidacy functions as a parody of celebrity campaigns that trade policy for charisma. I really do enjoy and appreciate the introduction back into this world, back into these characters. Diane's voicemail habit, speaking to BoJack's unapproachable phone, is telling. She performs this almost ritualistic task of constantly updating him on anything that's going on, being a sort of caretaker to a man who refuses to contact, which in all honesty does preserve her moral energy and dramatizes her impotence. Have I already mentioned that Princess Carolyn and Ralph are still together? Such a beautiful couple. So cute, so adorable. They seem perfect for each other, right? Well, it turns out that she may be pregnant, but she hasn't told Ralph yet. Ralph asks her to move in with him because it's time to take things a little more serious. We're gonna get married, you're my fiancé. She was pregnant and unfortunately she lost a child. That was pretty much handled off screen. Sort of a reminder that the lives of these characters persist and continue even if they're not visibly on screen. I really did like Todd's, little drone segment. He's stuck in the air, he can't get down, he ends up coming down eventually, winning the race. Now he's the mayor. It was funny. It brings levity to the episode. I mean, not that the episode was lacking levity in the first place, to be honest, but it is really amusing. Him becoming the mayor and his immediate abdication really reasserts the show's running idea about power and authority gained through absolute nonsensical accidents. By avoiding BoJack's physical presence in this episode, you can really feel the world's inertia in a sense. The characters continue to be flawed and consequential. The show signals it will interrogate systems, politics, PR, family that cause or enable harm beyond any one protagonist. And yeah, I'm not even sure BoJack can be considered a protagonist. All in all, great episode, lovely introduction back into this world. And simply put, it does what BoJack Horseman does best. It melds its wacky, funny comedy and just witty writing with heartfelt moments and just superb storytelling and pacing and just, I absolutely love it. Anyways, let's get on to the next episode.
This is the beginning of episode 2. How are we talking about
Episode 2. Now this episode opens with a tense moment following BoJack's disappearance. He's back. We find him on the road near a band of wild horses, contemplating whether to join them. Of course, this is where the previous season left off. BoJack is suddenly distracted by a voicemail left by Diane. This moment sets the stage for his journey across the country, ultimately leading him to the old Sugarman place. His maternal grandparents' deserted lake house. The house stands in disarray, mirroring BoJack's own state of aimless despondence as he initially opts to sleep on the floor, engulfed in his emotional turmoil. While at the dilapidated lake house, BoJack meets Eddie. Now, Eddie is an elderly dragonfly living nearby who also is burdened by his past tragedy. He believes that he played, a big role in his wife's unfortunate demise. Their bond unfolds gradually as they engage in the laborious task of fixing up the house. From cleaning to replacing plumbing components and restoring an old piano, BoJack's house repair routine becomes a quiet ritual. A small attempt at rebuilding both the house and himself. Simultaneously, the episode employs flashbacks to the Sugarman household in the 1940s, showcasing a young Beatrice who will become Beatrice Horseman, his mother, the one who's, kind of messed BoJack up, but who herself is also messed up in many, many ways. A cycle of trauma, unfortunately. In this flashback, we get to meet her parents, Joseph and Honey, and her brother, Crackerjack. Initially, the Sugarman family appears idyllic, filled with family songs and summer house bliss until tragedy strikes when Crackerjack leaves for World War II and dies. This loss shatters Honey, spiraling her into profound grief. Joseph, emotionally unavailable and of course a man of that time, probably unable to even tap into his emotions, as he was of course likely never taught to access that part of himself, so he wouldn't be able to even if he wanted to. Well, anyways, Joseph resorts to a horrifying and historically plausible solution, arranging for Honey to be lobotomized. In a heart-wrenching moment, Honey urges young Beatrice to never love as fiercely as she loved her son, Beatrice's now deceased brother. A tragically depressing and really character-defining core memory in Beatrice's life, and gives you a bit of further understanding to how Beatrice became the sort of individual, the sort of messed up, horrible mother that she did in her later years. It doesn't excuse it, but it makes you understand it a little bit more. Alright, so let's rewind a little. How did we get to this point where, unfortunately, she ends up getting lobotomized? Well, as BoJack and Eddie labor to restore the house, we see Honey, of course, through the flashbacks, descend further into her own darkness, culminating in a public breakdown. This moment of despair coincides with a deep rendition of the episode's recurring song, I Will Always Think of You. Linking the past to the present, the parallel between Eddie's grounded flight and Honey's inability to move on highlights the cynical nature of such trauma, the cynical nature of trauma in general. Now, what I will say about this episode, it really offers insight into the memory and inherited trauma, in a sense, intricately stitching BoJack's present experience to Beatrice's childhood, as you sometimes see her shadow walking around as BoJack is fixing up this house with his now new friend who is deeply entrenched in his own trauma and grief. The old Sugarman place is a literal setting of a mnemonic device, its decay reflecting the emotional neglect with the family. By juxtaposing BoJack's attempt at restoration with the Sugarman's family's unraveling, this episode frickin' brilliantly, and I mean absolutely fantastically, posits that while practical efforts can be therapeutic, they can often fall short without addressing deeper relational wounds. Understanding why you are the way you are. And these flashbacks also complicate our understanding of Beatrice, framing her not just as a cartoonishly cruel mother, but as a product of her unhinged traumatic upbringing. The loss of her brother, the mother's grief, and her father's emotional neglect form a backdrop of her character. Joseph's decision to lobotomize Honey, the brutal realities of mid-20th century mental health practices, illustrating just how the Sugarman family's strategy of emotional suppression fosters cruelty, something that Beatrice inherits. Oh yeah, may I just add, as for BoJack's relationship with Eddie in this episode, their connection, it's shaped from shared trauma, but it takes a severe and unexpected turn when Eddie's inner turmoil escalates into violence. I mean, at first BoJack is trying to do something for him. He's trying to get him to fly again because he's not flown since the death of his wife, because he blames himself. And now he holds the trauma and the weight of her passing, and will always forever blame himself. He no longer wants to be here. He no longer wants to be a participant of planet Earth. Initially, BoJack and Eddie find solace with each other's company. Both are haunted by their respective past. Their time spent fixing old Sugarman Place becomes a therapeutic endeavor. But like mentioned before, in a moment charged with anger and despair, Eddie attempts to kill BoJack, attempts to kill the both of them, now viewing him as a representation of everything he loathes about himself. And this moment starkly contrasts the previous bond that was just there. Of course, BoJack didn't respect his boundaries, and even though him getting him to fly was with good intentions, of course it didn't work out as BoJack had intended in his mind. Anyways, the aftermath of this, the friendship is irreversibly shattered. It's over. There's no going back now. BoJack is left in a state of shock and disbelief, grappling not only with the physical threat to his life, but also the emotional fallout of having built such an awesome friendship within such a short time, only for it to have now completely shattered. There's no going back. After all their work, after all the hard work they'd done, BoJack comes to a realization, you know what? I don't even know why I bothered rebuilding this shit. This is only holding on to a past, and if anything, I need to be letting go. So after all the hard work, BoJack calls some builders and tells them to knock it all down. And he's like, what are you doing, bruv? But BoJack just couldn't care less, and that's how the episode ends. So really, in summary, this episode does a great job. These little minute details of the memories of all the things that intertwine to have made BoJack who he is, to have made Beatrice who she is, and how the trauma has passed down from generation to generation.
I have no idea what I'm talking about, but this is a beat, so hello G, who you really tryna be? This is episode 3, so come sit with me as we discuss all the complexities of the man you see, or should I say horse. This is different than anything you've ever seen.
In a whirlwind of obligations, the episode featuring Todd Chavez, remember him? Well, this episode captures a frenetic day that challenges his character. Throughout the episode, Todd juggles a remarkable array of tasks, intending a symphony to play a solitary triangle note. Absolutely amazing. Todd, how do you do it? Running errands for Mr. Peanut Butter's campaign and participating in a staged paparazzi date with Courtney Portnoy. Todd really does have a way, similar to Mr. Peanut Butter, of just happening. He just happens to get all these crazy opportunities just by simply existing. But hey, it's Todd Chavez. You can't hate him. To add to the chaos, Todd wakes up to find a teenage horse named Hollyhock, who introduces herself as possibly BoJack Horseman's daughter. And that's after having chloroformed him in her determination to uncover her family's secrets. Now, amidst the chaos, Todd navigates through a series of increasingly bizarre and demanding situations. He endures an awkward photo opportunity with Courtney Portnoy in what is clearly a contrived relationship for the sake of public image. Additionally, he unwittingly signed campaign documents that later have unintended consequences, such as registering Mr. Peanut Butter as pro-fracking. In the background, Hollyhock seeks Todd's help in finding BoJack a task that exposes familial relationships and personal identity. She's trying to understand who she is because, as most adopted children can testify and relate to, she wants to know who her parents were, who her mother is, who her father is, and she thinks that she has potentially found that father figure. Well, actually, she's got 8 fathers already, because she was adopted by 8 fathers, yes, with a bunch of different personalities, and you best not forget about the 8, because they'll make sure you remember 8 of them. But anyways, as the day draws to a close, Todd begins to assert his boundaries. Hey, you can't use me anymore, I'm growing a backbone, you silly frogs. Specifically, he tells BoJack that he will no longer fall back into their old enabling dynamic. A dynamic that has been growing weaker and weaker as the seasons go by. But Hollyhock's appearance really does plant a seed of change for BoJack, suggesting that his relationship with his newfound daughter or is she really, could pave a way for personal growth. Todd has consistently served, in my opinion, as the show's most humane character. This episode really amplifies that role, the various obligations he fulfills, from the triangle solo to the faux romance, highlighting his function as an emotional Swiss Army knife, adept and adapting to the needs of those around him, feeling the need to fulfill those needs of those around him. While others often exploit his obliging nature, BoJack Horseman obviously the main culprit of this, Todd's genuine care shines through. Now we've got the entrance of a brand new character, Hollyhock. Her entry through Todd is a cleverly executed narrative move. His steady yet peripheral role makes her appearance feel both organic and timely. Her unusually long name and her candid remarks about living with 8 adoptive fathers in a poly household set her apart from the typical families. In the episode, she's really positioned as pragmatic and curious. This all introduces a familial obligation that complicates BoJack's life further, as if it wasn't complicated enough. Now this challenges his ability to evade his responsibilities, something that he's quite good at doing. Todd Chavez, he remains one of my favourite characters in the show. Really is indicative of the brilliance of Todd's narrative and his growth as a character, and as silly and ridiculous and goofy as his character can often be, sprinkled throughout the show, you really do get a sense of how much of an emotional anchor that Todd Chavez really is in the show. And he is truly underappreciated by those around him. Everybody just thinks, oh, it's Todd, he's gonna do whatever I ask because he's got nothing else to do, surely. Not truly understanding and appreciating the vast array of things that he somehow happens to be busy with. But Todd and his kind-natured self, always wanting to help others, always wanting to be of assistance to others, and deep down wanting to be at least appreciated by those around him, those he loves. And you can see the absolute disappointment in his face when he realizes, people take me for a bloody joke and nobody truly appreciates me. Well, anyways, this was a great episode, another fantastic addition, Hollyhock, a great contribution to the series. I absolutely adore everything about this. Yes, it's great. It's from her very clear similarities to BoJack Horseman, you can tell instantaneously that they are at least related in some sort of way. Of course, we find out by the end of the episode that BoJack is related to her, but perhaps not in the way the show initially conveys. And of course, let's not forget about Diane. She's got a new job. She's a reporter, writing stuff, writing news and important stuff that people read and sometimes don't read. Unfortunately, she's having a hard time trying to gather an audience of people that actually give a damn about anything she's writing. So Todd gives her some great advice to implement the important things, the real world things, the things that can actually make a difference inside some gossip that people typically turn their brain off to, because people love gossip, don't they? And last but not least, I can't forget to mention, I'm proud of Todd Chavez. Alright, I'm just saying his name in different ways for no reason. Because he comes out to BoJack as being asexual, and he is now embracing and has embraced that part of himself, and is realizing that it's okay, that it's okay that he's different in that way, and that it doesn't diminish who he is in any way. And BoJack is actually quite supportive about it, which is nice. But yeah, you can see the visible relief. There's a weight lifted from his shoulders and a sense of freedom written all over his face. It's great. It's fantastic. Anyways, on to the next episode.
Welcome to my 4th episode analysis. I hope you enjoy this.
Several parallel storylines that highlight personal conflicts and moral dilemmas are woven together in this here episode. Now, at the heart of the episode, Mr. Peanut Butter's political campaign takes a dubious turn, allowing fracking on his property, setting the stage for a series of complications. Meanwhile, Diane, who is currently writing for, Girl Koosh, the new job that she has, well, she begins to feel increasingly uneasy. Her discomfort escalates, and she realizes the ambiguous nature of Mr. Peanut Butter's stance on fracking, which obviously clashes heavily with her own ideological beliefs and complicates her relationship, given that, he's her husband. Mr. Peanut Butter's endorsement of fracking demonstrates a critique of celebrity politics, one could say, illustrating the messy intersection of profit motives and public policy. And obviously then there's Diane's ethical struggle, balancing her journalistic integrity with loyalty for her husband, raising questions about whether her personal principle can coexist with intimacy when one's partner's actions contradict her values so drastically. As the tensions unfold, another storyline follows BoJack and Hollyhock, who seem to be deepening their bond, now they've found out their father and daughter, or are they really? Hollyhock asks BoJack to help her find her mother, leading to some hilariously awkward admissions. BoJack's like, hey, you might have a hard time doing that. I'll be honest, I was a bit of a sleazy guy. I was a bit of a sleaze bag. You see, the 90s, yeah, it was a wild time for me. It was a wild time. Essentially, it would be a struggle to pinpoint who Hollyhock's mother is. He suggests a potential candidate, Marcy, a former fan club president. But anyways, BoJack agrees to take Hollyhock to visit her to see if perhaps, that is her mother. You see, he attempts to track down Hollyhock's mother through recollection of past sexual escapades, reveal his tendency to dodge emotional responsibility, his fabrication about past communications highlight his reluctance to face the truth. But of course we already know that, it just further reinforces things. However, you could say his choice to help Hollyhock marks a significant step forward towards personal accountability, a notion that becomes increasingly complicated through the season as BoJack wrestles with his desire for connection while simultaneously sabotaging it for self-protection. Meanwhile, there's Princess Carolyn and her boyfriend Ralph. They're navigating the process of, wanting to have a child. They want to have a baby. The plot takes a turn when they visit a gynecologist who informs Princess Carolyn that she has a low ovarian reserve. Their attempts at conception, including a police car, are both humorous and ultimately filled with hope, but also kind of nerve-wracking because you really want things to go well for them. By the way, the cop car situation is absolutely diabolical. They end up in a cop car and they just do it right there while the cop's in the car, absolutely traumatizing that cop. Adding to all this chaos, Diane's frustrations really start to mount as she considers writing a piece on Mr. Peanut Butter. Oh, bloody God. This isn't going to end well, is it? As the episode comes to a close, BoJack and Hollyhock arrive at Marcy's apartment, where Marcy's excitement upon seeing BoJack is palpable. However, BoJack lies about past attempts to contact her, claiming the timing just never worked out because 9/11 happened. Yeah. And then there's Hollyhock, blissfully unaware, hugging Marcy, thinking she might be her mother. Well, no, she's not. BoJack once again the king of lack of accountability. Will he ever change? Here's to hoping he will. But jumping back to the subplot of Princess Carolyn's fertility journey, there is really weight to its thematic content. And this whole arc adds a massive part to the season, and as you'll see as the episodes go on, really help to further flesh out the character of Princess Carolyn. Having long prioritized her career over motherhood, she now confronts the biological and emotional realities of timing. Towards the end of the episode, Diane ends up doing something similar to what she did to BoJack Horseman. She ends up revealing all the dirty laundry about her feelings towards Mr. Peanut Butter's actions and the potential of him being mayor and how she feels it would be a devastatingly horrific mistake for anybody to do. She gives him a warning telling him, hey, you better pull out of this race because I think you'll be a bad governor. Understandably, because he likely would. She tells him, you don't stand for anything, you dirty cow. Anyways, this leads to confrontation, this leads to anger, this leads to a bit of a uproar between the two of them. Diane, in a fit of rage and just anger, ends up posting this article. Oh no, not everybody has access to it. And just as they're having a fight, throwing shit about, Diane's throwing a PC, Mr. Peanut Butter's throwing whatever he can get hold of. Yeah, this is an absolutely toxic relationship, by the way. Guess what happens then? Yeah, this somehow turns into a bloody 50 Shades of Grey. Well, what's going on? But they end up, having make up fun time. I don't know what's going on anymore. All I can say is that this relationship is extremely strained, and it's hard to imagine or even see a sort of future for it. Especially with all the sort of infested, embedded rage inside of them towards one another, and they're just secretly hiding it, but deep down they hold contempt and just animosity towards each other. They just simply aren't meant for one another. And it shows more and more as the episodes go on, more and more as the seasons go on. And at this point you just start to wonder, how much longer will they last? In the part with BoJack and Hollyhock, the episode wraps up after Hollyhock has a bit of a meltdown, feeling almost guilty for wanting to know who her mother is. BoJack reassures her that wanting to know and find out about that part of herself is okay, it's not an issue, there's nothing wrong with that desire that she has. But she still feels down, thinking that she shouldn't care in the slightest because she was raised by 8 fantastic dads, and this desire makes her feel like it's almost an implication that they weren't enough. It is nice to see that BoJack does his best to try and comfort her, but let's be real, it's BoJack Horseman, so he's not exactly nailing it. Still, at least, he's making an effort to support her. Now, the narrative in this episode is driven by a shooting at the mall, an event that has a profound impact on Princess Carolyn's client, Courtney Portnoy. Her film, Ms. Taken, was originally set to feature a third act that dramatized a similar mall massacre, creating an urgent need for a PR overhaul. They face tough decisions about whether to delay the film's release or cut the controversial scene. Ultimately, Diane is brought in to write a glowing article on Girl Crush. Diane's storyline takes an unexpected turn as she herself starts learning how to shoot at a gun range. Yeah, a bit unexpected. She ends up finding it to be quite a visceral sense of empowerment when handling this firearm. And this moment resonates with her personal frustrations about feeling powerless. Her resulting blog post ends up advocating for women to carry guns as a means of empowerment. A very drastically different stance from what you would imagine Diane's stance would be in terms of gun control. Well, anyways, this goes completely viral and sparks public debate. Meanwhile, BoJack takes his potential daughter to meet his mother, Beatrice, at an assisted living facility. Unfortunately, Beatrice suffers from cognitive decline, often failing to recognize BoJack and delivering harsh words that cut deep. She's never really had a kind word to say to him in general. Hollyhock finds Beatrice charming in ways that elude BoJack. The affection Beatrice shows her creates a mix of somewhat comfort and also torment for BoJack, and it really does show and just exemplify how strained of a relationship he has with his mother. As the episode progresses, Princess Carolyn is tasked with managing the PR, laboring to reframe Courtney's image and salvage the film. The emotional heart of this episode quite strongly lies in BoJack's painful realization that his mother is slipping away and that he might never really have the chance to let her know how he truly feels. The extent to which he despises her, the extent to which he is left bitter and angry because of the horrors she put him through simply for existing. Anyways, guns are banned in the end. The episode comes to a darkly comedic conclusion by Diane stating, "I can't believe that America hates women more than it loves guns." And oh yeah, Beatrice is gonna have to live with BoJack for the moment, I guess, because guess what he did? Yeah, he ended up getting her kicked out of the care home she was in. Essentially, he was trying to get her to remember him, trying to get her to remember his face so then he could tell her in person. He was desperate, eager to tell her just how much he despised her. He even put on an entire play with Hollyhock just in attempts to get her to remember for a slight moment, but it didn't work. It didn't work at all. Instead, what happened is Beatrice got scared, she got violent. And this assisted care place has a rule: you get violent once, then we're kicking you out. So guess what? Beatrice is now going to be staying with BoJack for a while. I'm sure this won't cause any problems in the future. Personal struggles, public disasters, and emotional work that often goes unnoticed. Princess Carolyn battles to balance her career. From the start, Princess Carolyn is stopped juggling a tough situation and now has to pick up the pieces of her professional life. Then there's Rutabaga, remember him? This sleazebag from the previous season? Oh, sorry, I need to calm down. Well, he's in the mix again. Yay, Rutabaga. I hate him. Yeah, he just so happens to be Courtney Portnoy's new agent. Don't worry, Princess Carolyn's job's still safe for now, because she's the manager and there's a difference, remember? In the episode, he winds up staging a fake wedding to help boost Portnoy's public image. I probably should mention that her movie from the last episode absolutely flopped to all hell. Yeah, terrible box office results. Princess Carolyn is excellent at her job, but larger forces keep getting in the way. Personal determination unfortunately isn't always enough. You really see her emotional strength wear thin as she tries to manage both her career demands and her mental health. BoJack, on the other hand, whose storyline acts as a reminder of what unregulated and untaken care of mental health really looks like, his thoughts are intrusive and overwhelming. This chaotic inner voice is mirrored by the rough animation style, which feels jagged and raw. BoJack's depression, it brings the audience closer to his pain, making it feel more real. As BoJack wrestles with this self-destructive behavior, the episode raises important questions about morality. He knows what he should do to address these issues, but still feels paralyzed. Hollyhock's unwavering support for him is powerful. The story doesn't suggest that her faith will magically solve his problems. Recovery is a complicated and ongoing journey. Throughout the episode, the tone is strikingly honest. It steers away from neat resolution, the struggle of just getting through tough times. BoJack's haunting inner voice, its incessant overthinking, its repetitive nature, its sinking claws into the mind of BoJack is brilliantly executed. Finding redemption isn't easy. Even if you're just taking little steps forward, you are still moving forward. Human fragility, how fragile we really are as human beings. and how taxing the world can be, how experiences can really alter you, and how difficult it can be to change, even if you do really want to change deep down, and how paralyzing the mind can sometimes be. The hard work of emotional labor and the journey of personal growth amid trials, both inner and outer. Towards the end of the episode, Princess Carolyn ends up finding out that she is pregnant. Superb news for both her and Ralph. And definitely something to put a smile on her face after having to deal with Rutabaga and his sly ways. Yes, he may be working with Princess Carolyn right now as of this moment because she sort of needs his assistance in this very moment. And yeah, they may seem like they make somewhat of a good team doing shit, blah blah blah. But I don't trust him, I never have. Other than that, I really enjoyed or appreciated the little conversation BoJack has with Hollyhock at the end of the episode. She wonders where BoJack always goes to. It seems like he's evading her, trying to ignore her. Perhaps he thinks she's annoying, and BoJack is honest and upfront and so vulnerable in this moment. He just tells her he oftentimes does shitty things and that it is never her fault. It's just the way he is, and something he hopefully will someday change, will he? Who knows? Oh god, it's BoJack Horseman after all. And she shares that she has this voice in her head similar to BoJack, constantly telling her that she's worthless, constantly telling her that she's not good enough. Of course, BoJack can relate to this. She winds up asking him, does this voice go away? Is this perhaps just a teenage thing and eventually I won't have this incessant thing in my head constantly telling me I'm worthless? BoJack of course can't really relate to that sentiment because he's always had that voice. It's always been a part of him, unfortunately, but of course he doesn't want to let Hollyhock know that. He wants there to be hope, that things can get better, that change can happen, and he tells her that it will go away, and it can go away. But of course that takes a lot of self-work and effort and time to dampen that discouraging voice. Episode 7! Sure enough, BoJack tries to reconnect with Diane after a long time of ignoring her and honestly being a pretty terrible friend. When she finally replies, you can really feel her shock from hearing from BoJack, but it's clear that she's also really angry. But it seems like BoJack, of course, doesn't really get how much he's hurt her and how insignificant she probably feels in his life. Their friendship, like a never-ending loop, is stuck in yet another rocky and unstable moment. The conversation is short and shallow, but after that, BoJack decides to drop by and see her in person, only to find out that Mr. Peanut Butter is throwing a fundraising party. I've always thought the back and forth between BoJack and Mr. Peanut Butter is absolutely bloody hilarious. I love it, mainly because Mr. Peanut Butter tends to use a lot of sarcasm, or at least what feels like sarcasm, and it really makes you question what he really means, considering he doesn't seem so bright. Still, you can always feel like a hint of frustration disguised by his often cheerful nature, a sort of frustration bubbling under Mr. Peanut Butter's words. It's becoming more obvious that he's not thrilled to see BoJack. I mean, you can even see there's a little hint, a little look that he shoots out when BoJack somehow manages to sneak into the event. And I can feel the vibe getting pretty awkward. Princess Carolyn is there too, of course, always wanting to stay in the loop about anything that could help her career. Diane is definitely not in the mood to talk to BoJack, having to hold back her built-up anger towards him. Plus, Mr. Peanut Butter is still firmly in favor of fracking, which of course we know Diane is not. But it does look like he and Diane have managed to put a temporary band-aid on a problem that it's bound to come back, isn't it? This is not the end of it, I'm pretty sure. So the main action of this episode kicks off with Mr. Peanut Butter's house literally falling apart, which might be due to, him fracking underneath the house. Yeah, maybe that's what caused it, but hey, who knows? Who knows? As Mr. Peanut Butter would say, this is a blameless situation. So yeah, the house collapses and they're all underground now, and yeah, it's pretty bad. The situation is deteriorating as Mr. Peanut Butter inadvertently incites panic amongst the guests. People are panicking, revealing secrets, making revelations out of pure fear. What is going on? This is an absolute mess. And lo and behold, yet another argument erupts between Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane. Who would have guessed? Who would have ever seen this coming? What a shock! And no, unlike what Mr. Peanut Butter hopes it is not one of their sexy arguments, one of their sexy fights, like in the previous episode where it turned into bloody 50 Shades of Grey. Oh yeah, Mr. Woodchuck is also around, and we obviously know that these two are still battling it out to become the mayor. Mr. Peanut Butter's ex-wife tells him that this is the perfect opportunity for him to show why he would make a better leader. Meanwhile, Woodchuck is actually busy coming up with, actual survival plans, rationing plans, demonstrating real leadership by being the voice of reason and making tough decisions. In contrast, Mr. Peanut Butter just tells everybody whatever they want to hear, or whatever he thinks they want to hear, lacking any genuine leadership or structured planning. Despite his obvious incompetence, he still manages to win over the support of the other guests, also thanks to his ex-wife. All these people have been charmed by his empty promises. Instead of facing hard truths, the guests choose to believe Mr. Peanut Butter's sweet but shallow, hollow lies, perfectly reflecting many aspects of reality. It shows how people often make decisions solely based on emotions, focusing on how words make them feel, even if the words are complete fabrications, which is a clear critique on society in general. Throughout the episode, Diane and BoJack are drinking excessively, trying to drown out their worries. And just like that, all of Diane's pent-up anger seems to have absolutely vanished. Diane has a soft spot for BoJack, showing a leniency, compassion, and love for him that she doesn't show with anyone else, not even a husband. Later in the episode, she breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by the reality of her life, her emotions. She feels like it's drowning her. She's struggling to understand why she can't seem to find happiness, even when things are going well. It feels like something is missing, as if she could be doing more, like there's something greater out there for her. The grass is always greener on the other side, right? Or is it really? She feels like she is a pit where happiness goes to die, and this feeling, it consumes her. This sadness consumes her. Like I've mentioned before, BoJack and Diane have a lot in common, more similarities than differences, honestly. In this moment, they are getting really close, almost uncomfortably close, actually very uncomfortably close. I think many people would consider this cheating already. They're cuddled up together and Diane tells BoJack that she needs him in her life, which seems to shock BoJack. She tells BoJack, yeah, you're an absolute arsehole, but you're the only thing that makes sense to me. And this is honestly quite telling of the way she was raised, because she was raised in a very toxic environment, craving the toxicity, the whirlwind of emotions, the instability. And all those things pretty much sum up BoJack as a whole. Well anyways, things end up going to absolute shit. People are fighting each other by the end. Some people are getting set on fire, but hey, don't worry, the day's saved by some ant people that Todd and Princess Carolyn end up meeting as they're tunneling their way through on the underground, and the day is saved. The house is pushed back to the top. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy, but guess what? So I guess the conversation she had with BoJack made her appreciate Mr. Peanut Butter more and see the beauty and privileges she has in her life. But yeah, it seems Mr. Peanut Butter might be calling it quits with this whole running for mayor thing, even admitting that he simply just wanted to be liked. An aspect of his character that's been quite clear for some time. He clearly has a deep insecurity about not being liked or not being perceived well, and always wants people to think positively about him. Well anyways, this was a fantastic episode. On to the next!
Yeah. Episode 8.
BoJack and Hollyhock drive to the set where BoJack is guest judging in a reality TV show, Facility Hoffman's Booty Academy. Hollyhock, insecure around the thin, bikini-clad contestants, she ends up meeting an intern named Miles, and they hit it off. BoJack is threatened by Hollyhock's forming of this relationship. He can't stand it. No, nobody can take Hollyhock away from me, he thinks. So he tries to sabotage Miles by arguing that he's shallow and will hurt her. Miles actually ends up not being into Hollyhock as much as she'd probably hoped, so BoJack surprisingly was actually kind of right, and I'm in genuine shock. But BoJack is still an absolute arsehole. Let's not get it twisted, because BoJack tries to initially set him up by attempting to get Miles to cheat on Hollyhock, persuading one of the staff members to sleep with him in exchange for career advancement. What an absolute asshole. Well anyways, that plan doesn't even work out because BoJack mistakenly told her the wrong person, not realizing that Miles is just an intern. Once again, this is out of jealousy, let's not forget it. BoJack is later offered a transactional deal by Miles. He'll stop seeing Hollyhock if BoJack helps him, push his career forward a little bit. Helps him out with an agent. Helps him out a tiny bit. Yeah. Miles ends up he doesn't call Hollyhock anymore. And Hollyhock is left feeling abandoned, and she retreats back into her familiar self, doubting and flipping through channels, idly waiting for his call. BoJack doesn't tell her what happened, but he's there for her. But honestly speaking, I think Hollyhock is more there for BoJack. BoJack is just so scared of losing her, so scared of being alone once again. Of course, he's already lost Todd. Todd's long gone. Todd's had enough of his foolishness, of the foolish shenanigans. Selfishly willing to sabotage the happiness of Hollyhock, the happiness of anyone trapped within the confines of his own misery, of the tragedy that is his mind. Hollywood stardom and the dream of it all often has people create moral compromises. People you would see as good people still make regrettable choices when the system rewards self-interest. BoJack's tactic role in enabling that system further complicates his moral responsibilities and really just once again illustrates just how low he's willing to go and how he's willing to hurt anybody in order to not feel so alone. The episode revolves around competing worldviews about how people and systems work. BoJack assumes relationships inevitably mirror his own failings. Ralph assumes family differences will outlast scrutiny. Mr. Peanut Butter treats politics like a game. The Stilton family performs civility that masks prejudice. The show interrogates whether resignation to how the world works is truth or cowardice. BoJack projects his self-image onto Hollyhock, believing anyone who likes her must be like him, and acts to protect a warped status quo. His behavior is less about Hollyhock's well-being and more so about his need to control the narrative of himself through her choices. I know I sort of quickly just brought up what Princess Carolyn's been up to, but let's dive further into it. You see, she travels with Ralph and his sister Stefani, to meet Ralph's wealthy family. Ralph hopes to keep Princess Carolyn's pregnancy quiet until they're accepted, but the visit exposes the family's thin politeness and underlying bigotry and hypocrisy towards cats. Remember, their mouses. Princess Carolyn's a cat, yeah, complicated. Princess Carolyn tries to navigate the microaggressions and the performative warmth while protecting herself and the pregnancy news, social niceties concealing cruelty. The Stiltons' outward civility does not negate from the damage of their attitude, but it is sweet though, because at the end of it all, Ralph's like, hey, this is my girl, this is my wife, this is who I want to be with forever, and we're gonna have a baby. And it's cute, it's adorable. Princess Carolyn has a smile on her face while she's in the car, and that moment really just secures them and bonds them together even tighter. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. Oh god. Princess Carolyn is again shown as emotionally resourceful but vulnerable. Let's quickly talk about Mr. Peanut Butter. Of course, we know he's no longer running for mayor, and his ex-wife is definitely not happy about that, because he just completely quit on her. She even signed a deal to a new headquarters, and he just quit. She wasn't happy. She's not happy at all. So she somehow manages to get his other ex-wife to run for mayor as well. So now Katrina and Jessica are working together. Mr. Peanut Butter's superficial worldview persists, framing political engagement as performative. But you see, this time, Mr. Peanut Butter, since he's not running for himself anymore, will be assisting Woodchuck to become mayor, even though his help is definitely not needed, nor is it wanted in the slightest.
Welcome to episode 9. We're gonna talk about BoJack for some time. Talk about the episode, see where we go. We never see the future, but we know it is so. That BoJack repeats himself, and so we will see where it goes. So let's start the show.
Princess Carolyn's day opens under the weight of professional momentum and personal longing. The episode intercuts a present-day collapse with future scenes of Ruthie, a fictional future descendant who narrates the story. Princess Carolyn learns that she's unfortunately miscarried, and we find out that she's miscarried many times in the past. And it seems likely that she won't be able to carry a child. The narrative choice to frame the episode as a descendant's classroom presentation immediately sets up a central coping mechanism. She survives or copes mentally by inventing a legacy. That framing both softens and sharpens the blow of her loss. By imagining Ruthie, Princess Carolyn creates meaning where reality offers none, which the episode uses to dramatize and illustrate how people can rewrite trauma into more palatable stories. As career crises multiply, for instance a prized client deal evaporates, she also discovers that a treasured family heirloom, a necklace, is just costume jewelry. So essentially, all she knows about her family might be a complete lie, which in itself is bloody earth-shattering. And on top of that, she also finds out that Judah secretly turned down a merger without her ever knowing. He never told her she's the one in charge, and he just turned down. He just turned it down without letting her know. Yeah, that's a no-go. These setbacks are presented in a rapid succession, compressing desperate losses into a single catastrophic day. This compression is a choice by the writers that intensifies the emotional stakes in this episode and does a brilliant job demonstrating how the professional and personal are inseparable for Princess Carolyn. When Princess Carolyn fires Judah and breaks up with Ralph, yes, she broke up with Ralph because she's just going through a lot mentally, and Ralph is trying his best to be there for her. Of course, he had just found out that she'd had all these occasions of miscarriages in the past that she never told him about, so a lot was happening in such a short time frame. Princess Carolyn was going through a lot, Ralph was going through a lot mentally, and things just ended terribly. And of course we know why she fired Judah. Judah tried to make it clear that he turned it down because he didn't want Princess Carolyn to feel like she was in a situation where she had no choice. The episode exposes the limits of control as a coping strategy, her reflex to manage, terminating staff, pushing through meetings, sustaining appearances, reads as an attempt to reassert agency, yet it also isolates her and channels grief into punitive action. The moment she collapses in her car, strips away all performances. The series repeatedly uses such ruptures to show the cumulative cost of emotional suppression. BoJack also appears in the episode peripherally, mostly as a background to Princess Carolyn's day. His subplot is pretty minimal in the episode. His scenes underscore the show's larger world continuing around her and highlight the contrast between his chaotic moral drift and Princess Carolyn's frantic competence. But the last thing I want to say about this episode, the reveal that Ruthie's narration is a fantasy complicates any tidy resolution. It's both consoling and troubling. Consoling because Princess Carolyn's invented future grants her a story of survival. Troubling because the story substitutes for genuine healing.
Episode 10. This is episode 10. Analysis, baby.
The episode opens by splitting attention among BoJack, Princess Carolyn, and Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane. A choice that immediately signals the show's commitment to juxtaposing personal collapse with professional maneuvering. BoJack's arc centers on his growing attachment to Holyoke and the fragile illusion of stabilizing his life. When he discovers that Holyoke has been taking amphetamines, the plot compresses into a raw confrontation with betrayal. Narratively, the collapse forces BoJack to confront not just the immediate danger to Holyoke and her health, but the deeper inheritance of familial damage. The revelation that Beatrice was supplying the pills reframes Holyoke's vulnerability as part of a systemic pattern of abuse, and it lands on BoJack with a crushing weight of guilt. But yeah, honestly, it's absolutely mad that this was Beatrice's fault all along. This wasn't BoJack. He had nothing to do with this. Spiking Holyoke's drink to try and make her lose weight. This makes BoJack absolutely snap. He starts to believe that she's been lying all along. You remember everything. You're just pretending that you don't remember. You're an evil, evil witch. And I don't blame him in the slightest. But now Holyoke's life is in serious danger. She's at the hospital. God knows how long she's going to be there. Hopefully she's okay. Princess Carolyn's storyline runs on a different emotional frequency, grief redirected into frantic work. She drinks heavily and seems to oscillate between resignation and small, stubborn acts of rebuilding. She doesn't want to give up, she's still fighting. As she's always been, she is a fighter. Around the midpoint in the episode, Princess Carolyn gets a visit from a character called Flip McVicker. And he has a script for her called Filbert. And he's desperate for an opportunity. He wants to show his skill. He's a writer, or at least he wants to be a writer. And he feels this is the thing that will do it for him. He feels this is the opportunity he needs. And Princess Carolyn, at first, she's not really taking him seriously. But when she looks at the script, when she looks at the simple title and his name underneath it, it gives her a sense of warmth. It gives her a sense that maybe this is what I need, maybe this is what my career needs to push me forward. And without even reading it, she's like, you know what, I'm gonna give you a chance, Flip McVicker. You could say the script functions as a MacGuffin and a therapeutic object. Studying and championing the project becomes her way of asserting agency and refusing to be defined solely by personal losses. Showing parallel attempts to move forward that nonetheless stumble over the same reoccurring flaws. BoJack tries to protect and mentor Holyoke, yet finds himself powerless. Princess Carolyn channels loss into labor, but risks using work as a numbing distraction instead of actually focusing on the real source of her pain and actually trying to get better mentally. Diane oscillates between principled outrage and career-conscious compromise in order to make sure that Woodchuck wins this election instead of both of Mr. Peanut Butter's exes. BoJack is left reeling and more aware of his mother's capacity for cruelty, which is surprising because he was already pretty aware of how horrid she could be. His pain and anger is so much in this moment, he just takes her to a crappy run-down nursing home. He doesn't care about her anymore. Well, he does care deep down. You can tell there'll always be a part of him that craves his mother's love, affection and compassion, but in this moment, there's so much anger, and he just can't stand the sight of her. And just as he's about to leave this run-down, beat-up care home, just as he's about to open the door and likely never see her again, she calls out his name. BoJack. Alright, so what song should I make this time? You know what? Episode 11 analysis. Enjoy. So the episode essentially takes off where the last one stopped. BoJack found out what his mother was doing. Bloody spiking Hollyhock. Yeah, so he's taking her to the nursing home. But this time, the world is collapsing into Beatrice's fractured memories. Visuals distort, faces are scribbled or absent, timelines fold and locations morph to reflect her failing mind. Beatrice, as a lonely, sickly girl, is bullied on a playground and repeatedly told by her parents and peers that she's different. Her father, Joseph Sugarman, pressures her to behave in a way so that she will marry well into a well-off family in the future. Her mother is institutionalized after an apparent, taking herself out attempt. The family treats trauma as something unspoken and shameful. Young Beatrice is pushed into debutante society. At a coming-out ball, she meets Butterscotch Horseman, a charismatic, alcoholic, aspiring writer who charms her and later becomes her husband. Intercut that with memories that show Beatrice's increasing resentment, anger, and the slow erosion of her sense of self. Of course, this relationship between her and Butterscotch was to the absolute disapproval of her father, who obviously wanted her to marry into a well-off rich family. But unfortunately, she went for the bad boy. Beatrice and Butterscotch marry and move. Their marriage is very unhappy. Both drink. Butterscotch's career and temperament absolutely disappoint her. Obviously, we know she became pregnant and had BoJack. Scenes show domestic cruelty, emotional neglect, and Beatrice's growing bitterness towards her husband, BoJack as well, who she unfortunately views as a reflection of all her bad choices, who she unfortunately views as her failures. Beatrice's memory of a key traumatic sequence where Butterscotch has an affair with the family maid, Henrietta. And this ties in previous episodes because she's been calling BoJack Henrietta all this time, and it seems through her lens of dementia she's been seeing BoJack as Henrietta. Henrietta later leaves after a confrontation because Butterscotch is unable to take accountability for his actions for partaking in this affair, so he comes pleading to Beatrice to help him find out how to convince Henrietta to get rid of the child. And despite her already cold heart towards Butterscotch, it's clear that deep down this does wound her. The betrayal further feeds into Beatrice's alcoholism and her harsh treatment of BoJack. Non-linear flashes reveal further hurts, family secrets, deaths, and a pervasive atmosphere of coldness and expectation. Interleaved with the past is Beatrice's present-day confusion. She confuses people, repeats phrases, and can't place BoJack. After the memory journey, BoJack brings her into a nursing home. Despite every reason to punish her for a lifetime of harm, he ultimately chooses not to revel in revenge. When she recognizes him, he shows a restrained, weary compassion. We've seen where she came from, but her mind is now a fragile, disordered place. It could be said that the entire episode is somewhat subjective in the sense that events are presented as distorted recollections rather than strict chronology. While some of the memories we see in the episode might not have gone down in the exact same way that was shown on the episode, it's clear to see that those events had lasting effects on Beatrice, and these distorted flashbacks show and demonstrate the pain, the trauma that she went through, the hardship she went through growing up, the dimness she felt in her life, how she viewed her father as this cold, heartless, cruel man. The central theme of how intergenerational trauma and untreated pain produce cruelty, and the small difficult choices like BoJack's final restraint that can break the cycle. It's all honestly really sad. Beatrice's cruelty towards BoJack is kind of shown as, while this is not an excuse for it, it's not just shown as her being purely evil, but as a product of layered trauma, neglect, and internalized shame. The whole thing is honestly just sad. And despite all the hardship and terrible things she has gone through in her life, it still is not an excuse for the absolute atrocities that she has committed as a mother to BoJack Horseman. This is the final episode that I'm going to analyze. Episode 12 of BoJack Horseman. Let's take a look inside. Please enjoy. Wow, so we finally made it to the last episode. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching the video. I appreciate you all, and I hope you've had a good time watching this video, because I've had a great time making it, writing, watching BoJack Horseman once again, analyzing, giving my thoughts, my perspective, and just diving deep into the glorious world that is BoJack Horseman. So in this episode, Princess Carolyn and Flip McVicker pitch Filbert to streaming executives. The show is greenlit, with BoJack as the lead, though Princess Carolyn forged BoJack's signature in episode 10, so technically, at the beginning he doesn't have any clue about this at all. BoJack worries about Hollyhock after an angry call from one of her fathers, watches old horsing around episodes, and becomes increasingly unsettled about a DNA result. Princess Carolyn spirals, gets drunk and crashes. Todd rescues her, gives a pep talk in the woods, and they fend off rabid clowns. Yeah, the clown dentist thing. Let's just call it one of Todd's business ideas it's all over the place and it's ridiculous and nonsensical. But hey, it's Todd, so we expect nothing less, I guess. Diana and Mr. Peanut Butter preview a VR tour of their new dream house, and later move toward a short Hawaii vacation that doesn't really work out because, hey, guess what, there's a fuck ton of traffic, but hey, they'll make do with what they've got, and instead of complaining, they decide to have a little getaway in a motel that they're near to. BoJack has an epiphany while searching through Beatrice's things, leading to a key realization about Hollyhock's parentage and family history, resolving the season-long Hollyhock thread. It turns out that Hollyhock was never his daughter, but in fact, Hollyhock is the daughter of the maid that Butterscotch cheated on Beatrice with. So no, Hollyhock is not his daughter. But it does make Hollyhock his half-sister. Hollyhock tells BoJack that she doesn't need another father. She's already got 8 amazing fathers who are in her life who care about her. But she tells BoJack she's never had a brother before. And this is a really sweet and warm moment. You can tell BoJack really wants to keep her in his life. There is a genuine transformation just in the last episode where BoJack, instead of taking out all his justifiable anger on his mother for the cruelty that she put him through, but instead being empathetic to his mother's situation, that alone shows immense growth. And BoJack, he still has his flaws and he'll always have flaws, but I think this may be the start, maybe not of redemption, because he's done a lot of really fucked up shit, but at least the beginning of change. a change for the better, a change to improve himself. BoJack's arc in this episode and in the season in general provides the clearest growth of the season, a moment of genuine empathy and connection with Holyoke that suggests that he can be present, if imperfectly. It's not redemption, but at least it's a concrete step forward from complete self-narcissism. Princess Carolyn manages to save her career by any means necessary, and by the end of the episode when she asks BoJack if he can help her out by being part of this, he just says, yeah, you know what, I can't really say no, you've helped me so much in my life, it's time for me to do you a favor, and that in itself was sweet and, adorable. I mean, let's ignore the fact that she forged the signature, it's still, that whole sequence is still very sweet. They've got a lot of history, a lot of back and forth, a lot of ups and downs in their relationship, but little moments like this are very heartwarming. Diane's emotional exhaustion is foregrounded. The house, buying a new house, it's all just a bandage. And the show very clearly signals this. It signals continued strain rather than a tidy reconciliation. The final takeaway is a hopeful but almost sort of ambiguous one. Growth is real but fragile. The episode refuses tidy redemption. Instead, what we get is movement from these characters. Characters are changed enough to be interesting in the next chapter, but still culpable, scared, complicated. And it's this tension that you can just feel that is the continued power of this series. We finally finished the video. Thank you all for watching. It really means a lot if you've stuck through this entire thing. If you've watched the video at all, I appreciate the support. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a great time. Whether you're listening to it while you're working in the background, whether you're using it to fall asleep, or perhaps you're attentively watching each and every second of the video, I appreciate the support. Thank you for being here. Please, I hope you've liked the video. Make sure to share it and check out my other videos. I appreciate it once again. And of course, please make sure to subscribe. I'll see you all in the next video, whatever the hell that's gonna be. Goodbye.
I told you that this time a shadow brightly goes. The winter's coming down and I think I know. So I looked up to the sky and I saw your smile. You can't lie to me. You can't lie to me. You can't lie